Hello everyone, welcome to Risk Roundup. It is a well-known fact that curiosity is as old as humankind. Now, since research is formalized curiosity, as new ideas and disruptive innovations bring a technological tsunami, it is important to understand where those new ideas are emerging and who is working on what. Progress and development that we see today has been a result of yesterday's research. What research we do today will define our coming tomorrow. Since research is creating new knowledge, what better way to understand research trends than from a knowledge officer? To discuss emerging trends in research, I'm delighted to welcome one such knowledge officer, Tristan Roberge-Mentec, to Risk Roundup. Tristan is a knowledge officer and knowledge transfer officer, and in his prior role, he worked as at the European Organization for Nuclear Research, better known as Cern. He is currently associated very closely with many universities and organizations' research initiatives. Welcome, Tristan. We're honored to have you on Risk Roundup.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to participate.
Wonderful, Tristan. So, with all the organizations you have worked with or are currently working, what research trends do you see broadly shaping in 2020?
I believe that 2020 would be shaped by the combination of biological and chemistry science with computing-based application, the capability of a system operating on machine learning to discover new molecules, new trends in the biological physiology and systems. I believe this combination is going to shape not only 2020, but the next decade to come.
No, it seems like that. So when you say new molecules, where are we, what kind of research is going on and who is working on that research?
So the research on new molecular systems is basically handled in the Massachusetts by the leading universities, Harvard and MIT, where you have several research groups who are working on combining computing science and nanotechnology to discover new combinations between existing molecules, to discover new compounds, new materials, but also to discover new pathways in the gene interaction to better understand our own bodies.
Yes, very true. And those new nanomolecules, I mean, we can, there are many applications that could emerge from that, for creating stronger, materials and, lighter, materials. And we can have more particles that can help us, with our research in, creating healthcare solutions. So there are many applications that could emerge. So when you said, before you said, in your answer, you said machine learning also, there are a lot of advances happening. And we know that many universities and even many corporations are working on, machine learning applications. And that ranges from, for financial industry to, many other industries. So what advances in machine learning you think are eye-catching or, something that are going to be very transformative for our coming tomorrow? And where do you see those advances emerging?
So I believe I see advances first, as I said, in computing simulations. So the ability of a system to simulate interaction between two compounds, two bulk of data, to actually create something new, something who completely escapes the human mind, just because a system based on machine learning won't have the same limitation as a human mind when it comes to creating a map of interactions or potential overlap between systems. I also see a big advance of machine learning in the defense industry when it comes to what they call tactical awareness. So the ability of a system to project itself in an environment and to see what happened, what could happen, and to predict the next move of environmental hazards around it.
Oh, that would be so very, so much essential, for us to be able to achieve that. But the point that you made about human to human interaction, the molecule to molecule, and the brain science research or the machine learning, molecule, we can, without, are you talking about where we will not need brain computer interface? Are you talking about brain-to-brain interface advances that are happening? So that could advance the neuroscience, that could advance, mind control technologies. Is that what you are seeing?
Mind control, I think we are very far from it, just for one big reason, is the human mind, even at the state of the art today, is mostly unknown on the way it works. The biochemistry happening in the brain is still largely unaccounted for and unknown. We mostly know the structural data of the brain, the structure of the brain, the way the neurons interact. So I think machine learning will be able to actually create new opportunities to understand how neurons are activated and potentially to see new new opportunities to overlap it with our own brain activity to create something new. But the brain control, mind control, I believe we will not see this for like decades yet.
I see. I see. Now I understand that. Now, the brain-to-brain interaction. Are the organizations or the research institutes or researchers, scientists who are working on that, are they trying to create telepathic advances of communication, or is there some other goal behind the research that is going on?
I think this type of research has been carried for decades now, but recently some universities funded by DARPA actually found a way to transfer a very small amount of information from a brain to another, but it was more sensation, feelings, actually, information more than real rational information. It wasn't someone saying, for example, plane and the other person hearing plane. It was more transferring a sensation to one person to another.
I see. So, did they use what was the medium to transfer those thoughts?
It was
What
an invasive brain implant.
I see, I see, I see. So, I mean, we all know about entanglement, right? I mean, human to human entanglement is also a reality. If we see, I have been doing research on these, energy fields and entanglement and quantum entanglement, and it's very fascinating because I was just telling a friend, recently that if you see the dogs or a lot of animals, even if they're isolated, you don't teach them anything that their species normally do. In spite of that, they still figure out what
Mhm.
needs to be done, and that knowledge comes because of that energy field that is around us. And if other dogs or other animals are miles away, but they do certain things, these dogs somehow can sense that, and they learn those things. So there are a lot of there's also some research going on in that direction, and it's very fascinating because it shows the entanglement of all the lives,
Mhm.
not just humans but the animals, and how all are connected. And it will be very interesting to see where that research takes us. But talking about your and of course the research that you just talked about from DARPA, that is also very fascinating, and I look forward to seeing the results because it would advance so many fields. If we are able to achieve that, communicate through our minds only, without any barriers and without any use of any phones or any other applications or computers, it would be so good to be able to communicate and advance further as a species. But when you worked at CERN, let's talk about
Mhm.
your experience there. From what I have read, that from material science to computing, particle physics to energy fields, there is a lot of advances happening there. So, what progress did you see at CERN and other organizations when we talk about material science or computing? We just talked about machine learning, but there are also many other fields of computing that are advancing rapidly. And DNA, molecular computing, DNA computing, all those areas are also, there's a lot of research going on. So, and if we talk about CERN, then particle physics, and they have made a lot of advances. So, what progress uh, stayed with you when you were working there at CERN that you find it's going to be very transformative for the human species?
So I believe the main and the closest technology to be developed and who is currently in development at CERN is actually the what they call the high temperature superconductors, which is superconductive materials who don't require a high amount of cooling to actually work, which would make actually this anti-gravity and maglev technology available pretty much everywhere because we would not need actually to bring the system to a very cold temperature to do it. That would be probably the main and closest technology in development right now.
So how do you see it helping the industry research and the applications that could develop because of that?
It could develop more like application in space exploration, for example, by creating coating around the plane or on spacecraft who could propel it faster, so making it able to go faster from a point to another during a space travel. It could also invent advanced medical research, biomedical research, by creating better MRIs, like magnetic resonance imaging. So we would get better imaging and then ultimately better data to work on in the medical field.
Yes, that would definitely, if we have better equipments, then we will get better clarity of what is happening inside the human body, and that could definitely advance medical science. Now, you mentioned before that there are also a lot of advances happening in machine learning that you saw, Harvard and other places. What kind of data sets that they are using for advancing the machine learning? What are they publicly available, or these are all proprietary data sets that they are working with?
Now, every data set used at Cern is available for the large public because Cern has been one of the first promoters of open source and believe that science and technology are about dissemination, not about patenting and paywalls, let's say. So every data set Cern is using is available to the large public.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Now, at CERN, do you know anyone who is working on energy fields? Is there any research going on there?
No, I don't believe so, especially because since the discovery of the Higgs boson in 2011, actually, we really focused on going deeper in the particle comprehension. So right now it's more about still particle hunt and comprehension of the particles we already discovered.
Yes, yes, definitely. The Higgs boson is just God particle, such a huge moment, and there is so much that we can learn based on that. And of course, there are a lot of people afraid also about the tunneling, and that what could happen, if we are right on the edge, and that we could human species could not survive if there is a slight imbalance in that quantum vacuuming and all that. So there is a lot that CERN can help us understand better for what kind of strategic security risks are coming our way, so that we could be prepared. We can hopefully create some solutions if it's within our power. So that is fascinating research. So other than CERN, what other organizations do you work in, and what kind of research that is going on with those organizations?
So I work mostly with the University of Geneva, and now I start working with the University of Waterloo in Canada, but still on a not professional basis. So I'm not exactly at the liberty to talk about what I'm doing here in Waterloo. So, but with University of Geneva, I mostly work to find common points between neuroscience and particle physics, mostly in ion transfer and in neuroimaging. So that was mostly the bulk of what I was doing.
Where would that research take? What kind of applications can emerge from that?
So it's mostly to better understand the electrical current and the energy transportation through the synapses and the neurons, mapping this type of transfers to better understand how the information goes to one part to another in the brain, to understand how a thought, for example, could be formed.
So these are more brain mapping, studies that are going
Yes.
on to understand all different neurons, what role it plays and how the transfer
Yes.
happens. And
Most of CERN medical applications are based on imaging because of the huge experience of the physicists in this field.
yes, yes, absolutely. Now, as far as the AI goes, I mean, you talked about machine learning, but are you associated with any organization that are working on autonomous, systems? And is there any research going on that if any system becomes autonomous, how do we shut it off if there is a need to shut it off?
I believe that if a system had to become autonomous, and I don't see it happening for several decades yet because of the limitation of the current systems and databases, I believe it would be probably from emerging from the defense industry. So where I don't have that many insight just because of closed doors, of course.
Of course.
So, but yes, if an autonomous system had to emerge, I would see emerging from a defense contractor project, probably.
Yes. No, I mean, this is also about autonomous system not just becoming autonomous on its own, uh, but also how all the different algorithms from all across nations, how they could interact with each other, and where could that interaction take us if that interaction starts happening between algorithms. So any idea if anybody is working on that?
No, especially because when it comes to AI systems, machine learning, countries are really protective about it. So we can see that we all have calls for collaborations and partnerships between nations, but ultimately we have huge walls still between. So the collaboration, like this open collaboration, is far from existing yet.
Yes, no, I understand that, and there is a need to be, protective about such research. So it's totally understandable. So, based on your journey as a knowledge transfer officer, which knowledge transfer excited you most as you have worked with so many organizations?
Sorry, can you repeat?
As I mean, there are many different kinds of knowledge transfer happening, and in your journey as a knowledge transfer officer, which kind of what knowledge transfer that you have done that has excited you most, and that you feel is going to benefit not only basic research advances, but
Mhm.
basic science advances, but also many applications that could emerge from that.
So I think my favorite application that I transferred at Cern was a system, machine learning system developed for the particle accelerator, who would be able to take a section of an accelerator part and be able to actually point autonomously defects and issues on actually the picture for the people to actually, for the teams to be able to repair. And this technology could be adapted very easily to the medical field. And for example, to pinpoint tumors or lesions on an organ, on the skin, probably like on blood vessels. So this technology has been invented as a pure maintenance tool, but could have application to protect people from cancer or from degenerative disease in the future.
That's very exciting. That's really good. So, the medical those applications have then been commercialized, or they are still into the development phase?
It's still a development phase. At CERN, I
They,
was mostly involved in research collaborations, so not commercial partnerships per se, but more finding a technology at CERN, finding an industry interested, and seeing how we could work on adapting the technology or the knowledge to the industry.
so, anybody particular in CERN who is working on entanglement, quantum entanglement?
It would be mostly the section at CERN called CERN Open Lab, where who became recently part of the IBM network for quantum computing, and they worked mostly on the algorithm part of quantum computing. So I believe that it also covers partly entanglement formulas and equations.
So, in quantum computing, what are the advances CERN has made? I mean, are they developing any specific research? Are they working on any specific research problem, or they're
No,
just?
CERN actually doesn't develop quantum computers. CERN has been using the very cutting edge technologies developed for the particle accelerator to improve the hardware for other companies. For example, we used our cryogenics knowledge to improve quantum computers at IBM, for example. We have been acting mostly as a provider of new technologies for quantum computing manufacturers.
Got it. Got it. So, and what are the technologies that they are developing that could advance the space exploration further?
Propulsion system, superconductivity at higher level could actually act as propulsion system for a spacecraft, a clean one, more powerful one, with a better sustainability, meaning that we could fly a spacecraft for longer, faster, and without any harm for the environment. That's one. There is also several research carried in using particle propulsion, but that's really, really early stage.
Yes, yes, I hear you. So, are they developing any hardware that would advance? You said that they are developing the better MRI, machines, so with a better, resolution. But are they developing any other hardware technology that could advance the industries from healthcare to, nanotechnology to biotechnology to defense technologies?
Uh, yes, I believe there is like several hardware in terms of material science who could have actually used all across the board of type of industry, mostly because the materials developed at Cern, they are very strong and very adaptive because they have to sustain the discharge of a particle accelerator, of course. So it means that they can sustain the takeoff of a spacecraft, of a jet fighter, of a plane. They can also act for submarine application because they can resist a lot of pressure. I think material science would be probably the most like global type of application.
I see. I hear you. So, is there any specific question that you think CERN is more interested in? I mean, of course, they're working on the Higgs boson, the God particle that they have, developed, and there's going to be further, research that they are planning on that. I read about that. So that path is very clear where they are going. But other than that, any other specific questions that they are working on that they want to solve? Or I mean, we broadly talked about that they are into developing hardware, and how those developing hardware and other solutions are going to broadly help the industries and the human species. But anything specific, any specific question that concerns them, that for the strategic security of the human species, for the human civilization, that they are working on?
I think most of the researchers in machine learning at CERN are part of committees and research group on the future of AI, for example, the future of state surveillance. Just because CERN is an absolute non-military actor, so most of the researchers there are trying to find solutions to keep most of the technologies in the civilian realm.
So, for the future of AI, where do you see it going? Where do they see it going, rather, son?
Well, I believe that they would see it coming, unfortunately, a lot in defense and security purposes. But in their hope, their ideal would be to keep the core of AI research in the hand of civilian application for like non-military, so medical, chemistry, probably like space exploration.
I see. I hear you. So, what would you like to tell our global viewers and listeners, especially about the research community, that what they are working on, and where they could? You have done a lot of collaborations work. That was one of your job. That you at CERN were doing, that to do the collaborations with the research community. Where do you see the collaborations need to happen? Especially if you're talking about the CERN, and the scientists and research community that is all across nations.
So we really need more collaboration between industry and academia in very basic science, but also in applied science. So not only quantum chemistry, for example, but new materials development. Because if we want to deliver the next generation of computing platforms, medical devices, gene therapy, we really need to increase the collaborations between academia, where most of the biggest minds and researchers are, and industry, where the money and the capability of development is. We still find a lot of obstacles between the two, and we really need to actually entangle the two to create something new and fast for the next decade.
Yes, very true. Now, especially when you just mentioned gene therapy, what is the status on that? What are the advances happening, in research for gene therapy?
I think the main advancement have started in 2015 when two researchers found this new gene editing technique called CRISPR-Cas9. And we are like, I think the research community is still on researching how to use it in a non-harmful way. So some trials have been made, but it's still very limited in terms of application.
Right, right. That is very true. So no specific applications have emerged of the gene editing, gene therapy, where we can actually cure diseases. Have we made advances to target any specific disease that yes, using
Yes.
gene therapy? Okay.
The US actually published in the last days, actually, the result of trials for lung cancer, and it's very promising with very high level of success rate. So they hope to actually pursue the gene editing research to counter the metastasis and the cancer development in the body.
Yeah, I'm glad to know that. That's really good progress. And any other than the lung cancer, any other diseases that are being experimented with at the
It's
moment?
mostly other for orphan disease and genetic disease because those diseases are embedded in our genome, and gene editing could help potentially cleanse our gene code and remove the genes responsible for a pathology we inherited from our ancestors.
Yes, very true, very true. Those will be good to, solve those and, eradicate a lot of those diseases. So
Yeah,
we don't have a large population with, chronic diseases. That would be a really good advancement. So thank you so much, Tristan, for
thank
participating
you
in
very
this
much.
today. We appreciate your thoughtful insight on research trends, and our global viewers and listeners will benefit tremendously from the information you shared, not only at what research is being done at Cern, but also at some other organizations and your broad assessment about the industry. So this risk roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Tristan. So, Risk Roundup, a global initiative launched by Risk Group, is a security risk reporting for risk emerging from existing and emerging technologies, technology convergence, and transformation happening across cyberspace, aquaspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. And it is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup videos, or listen to the Risk Roundup podcast, please go to riskgroupllc.com, and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.